Hello and welcome to some more Star Citizen. Today I want to talk about more multi-crew combat ships and choosing the right one for you. This is a mixture of a ship buyer's guide and a Theorycraft because stuff's going to be changing. So for a lot of this we're going to be talking about the spirit of the ship and what the ship's meant to do and my thoughts and opinions on it. I'm going to break it down into three major sections, but we're only really going to talk about two of them. We've got two pilot ships, so literally a ship that's got an extra crew seat. Multi-crew ships, like proper, true multi-crew ships, like the Constellations, like the Retaliators, and then capital ships. The capital ships, though, we will cover in more details in a later video. Any prices I mention will be excluding taxes and will be in US dollars, and some of the ships will be limited time sale ships, so you can only purchase them during like an anniversary sale or during other events before the game releases. Also, everything that I talk about is fully obtainable in the game universe with no additional real money cost necessary other than you purchasing a game package, and a lot of this stuff you'll be able to rent with REC or REC once they come out as well. There are some smaller combat ships that have an additional or secondary crew station, chair or turret, and these ships work much better with this position field. You're not going to be able to wander around your ship much, and in most cases, not at all. It's just an extra chair normally, but they are technically multi-crew ships. The Reliant is a second tier starter ship, and I think it should suit combat with two pilots reasonably well, but it is also getting a combat variant in the future referred to as the Skirmisher, which I expect to only be a few extra dollars to upgrade to the Skirmisher from that base Reliant, which was $50 last time I saw it on sale, that Reliant. $50 for the Reliant. Pretty good for a ship, especially when it's got two seats, and it's a little bit more powerful than a standard starter ship. That second pilot's going to be able to make use of huge weapon arcs on that ship, assuming that you outfit it with a load of weapons rather than tractor beams. Helping manage the ship's systems and messing around with the ship's configuration are all stuff that second pilot's going to be able to do. And that's going to make that ship run a lot more effectively. If you're looking for a starter ship or to get in as cheaply as possible while flying literally with a friend in your ship with you, then the Reliant or its combat variant are for you. It's going to be able to fold out into one of two combat configuration modes. I really like the look of this ship. It's really clever, but we'll have to see whether it's effective. In our last video, we did talk about the Super Hornet Gladiator and Xi'an Scout. So these are all ships that have a second crew position. In the case of the Super Hornet and Gladiator, that's basically to control the turret. But I expect the second pilot will be able to have some control of the other systems as well, allowing the ship to work a lot more effectively. You're basically improving the efficiency, though, of a single piloting ship. You're going to be able to fly those three ships totally well with a single crew, single crewman, single pilot. But that second crewman does add to the efficiency there. All of these are $150 or more, though, and you're going to be able to buy a fully fledged multi-crew ship at that price. Again, mentioned in the last video, the Vanguards. So, the Vanguards are large enough for a second crewman to walk around, and also, especially in the case of the Sentinel variant, the Ebor variant of the Vanguard, it's going to function a lot better with a second crewman. So, also due to its size, that turret being manned by another player will be really, really helpful, enabling the Vanguard to much more easily handle or herd dogfighters into the front arc of the ship. I really like the Vanguards, and I think the Sentinel, with a couple of clever players, could really wreak havoc on enemy lines and defensive positions and just take out a lot of ships quite easily. And have some bloody good fun while they're at it as well. One of your pilots taking and blowing up enemies, and the other switching from the turret and the AMP suite and back and forth. I think that the ship might even be operable with 3 crewmen, but we'll have to see what the future brings there. Those Vanguards being quite expensive as well, starting at $250. And it would be remiss of me to not mention the Freelancer Miss. The Freelancer Miss is the combat variant of the Freelancers. Again, we talked about it yesterday or in our other video, but with another crewman helping manage those systems, missiles and weapons. You're going to have a very powerful missile boat. But again, it's a limited to sale ship. $165 it will cost you. It's quite expensive, and you can grab a fully fledged multi-crew ship at that price. So let's talk more about what I would deem as true multi-crew ships. They're ships that really work well, in my opinion, with 3 or more crew and have some possibly deeper gameplay elements to them. Some of them are a bit multi-role and not pure combat, but will fulfill certain combat roles or areas, and we'll talk about them as we come to them. The Constellation Taurus, it's great value, $150 for the ship. It's a stripped down version of the Constellation series, but it's got all you need to get started in the world of multi-crew, and you can upgrade it to be a pretty powerful beast. It loses some shield power and a turret that the Andromeda has, the combat variant basically has, as well as a lot of its missiles, but it's still got a big complement of missiles, but it does lose that parasite fighter that the Andromeda has as well, which could be pretty useful. But it does also gain a lot of cargo space, and I would expect to see some modularity with that unused space in the future, supporting maybe some Marines for boarding or an E-War suite. There are a lot of potential options there. So the Retaliator, or the Tally, it's pretty modular and can be built as a dropship ferrying Marines around for boarding and assaulting hostiles, or as a torpedo bomber, or a mixture of the two for combat. There are also possibly going to be more modules that you can put it in the future that will enable it to do more combat roles. In my opinion, the Retaliator is a great choice for groups that want to do multi-crew combat, but it may suffer if it doesn't have the right support in combat. It will be extremely useful against larger ships, being able to bring a load of Marines to bear on a target, or hammering it with torpedoes. It's going to be great seeing the Retaliator bomber fight the Constellation Andromeda. The Retaliator having all those manned turrets and torpedoes firing at the Connie, while the Andromeda has dozens of missiles and a couple of those turrets and lots of forward-facing guns. It's going to be quite a cool multi-crew dance. The Retaliator is going to have a huge firing arc, all of those turrets being able to rotate around the craft to be able to cover pretty much every angle. But to use the Retaliator effectively, in my opinion, to board or attack a larger ship like a Corvette or an Idris, say, you're going to need some support to let you get in position and to do your thing. That being said, pretty much all of the multi-crew ships here will require team support to take on a capital ship anyway. The Cutlass Blue. So the Cutlass Black and Blue are going to be great choices for multi-crew combat if you want to go into boarding, piracy and bounty hunting. The black is a stealthier version and the blue is a more combat orientated version. But unless really you want to go into boarding, pirating or bounty hunting specifically, then I choose another ship. The blue is limited and costs around $165. And you could get a Constellation Taurus or a base Retaliator at that price and still have change left over. In my opinion, there are much better choices if you want to slog it out with a ship. The Caterpillar, in my eyes, is the next evolution of the Cutlass. Larger, more modular, it's going to have more potential to be an extremely powerful multi-crew ship for whatever role you want to have. And that with being able to expand its crew capacity effectively with different modules is really useful too. Again, it is a multi-role ship and great if you want to go down the hybrid route with your multi-crew ship. So like boarding, scavenging, smuggling as well as combat. There is a lot of possibilities. But again, if you want to slog it out one-on-one with another ship, there are much better multi-crew ships for combat available. And today we're all about the combat. The Constellation Andromeda. The Andromeda is my favourite multi-crew ship at the moment. It has a huge assortment of weapons, missiles, and turrets. The ship is built for no-frills combat. It has 2 manned turrets, 3 crew stations on the bridge, and as standard it comes with a parasite ship, the P-52 Merlin, which you can both launch and redock with the Andromeda. When operating with a fully human crew of your friends, this ship is going to be so fun. A large amount of the ship's weapons are forward firing, and those gun turrets, those turreters, need to be herding those faster little ships into the front arc of your Andromeda to be able to take them down. For me, this is one of the ships that defines Star Citizen and will give most players a multi-crew combat experience and ship covering all the bases. And for $225, it's not going to break the bank, especially if you're buying it in a group. The Redeemer is a dropship crossed with a gunship. It is made by players, and it was the winner of CIG's The Next Great Starship competition. It has a very powerful forward firing arc, and the ability to ferry marines to assault your target. But for me, it's trying to do two things simultaneously, and it doesn't do either as well as some other ships can do, especially for the price of $250. I would much prefer to go for a Retaliator or a Caterpillar if I was going down the dropship route. So I also thought I'd mention the boom slang here. This is the runner-up in the Next Great Starship competition, and CIG are probably going to be adding it at some point. It's going to be much more of a gunship as well, and they're going to be around the same price point, so that might suit some players' needs more. Well, the constellation Phoenix has to have a mention, because it is effectively the best constellation. This is the expensive luxury touring version of the Connie, or the constellation, with every extra bell and whistle they could manage to add, and even includes a hot tub. It comes with better hardpoints for more size 2 missiles, and even a point defense system over the Andromeda, which is, I assume, for shooting down missiles and torpedoes. It also comes with the buggy and a faster P-72 Parasite fighter, which isn't going to have the same armament. It's going to have 4 size 1 weapons rather than 2 size 1 and a size 2 that the P-52 has. The Phoenix is going to have a better max loadout than the rest of the Constellation variants. She is going to be expensive at $350 though, and limited. It's going to be quite a rare ship, so it might be worth getting in the verse rather than purchasing, but it's going to be better than the Andromeda for combat. It's going to have slightly better hard points, slightly better engines, power plant, that sort of stuff. I also thought I'd talk about the 890 Jump as well. This is a very limited run of ships. You will be able to get them in the verse though, and they probably will go on sale again at some point before the game's released, but this is certainly much more of a luxury space yacht or touring ship than a traditional combat ship. But with a little bit of customization, I'd expect it to be pretty powerful as a multi-crew combat ship. It's not going to be cost effective or UEC effective. It occupies an interesting size for a ship, not quite as big as a Corvette, but bigger than most of the other multi-crew ships. It has great stock weapons and gear and a X-85 shuttle, the runabout. It is an excessively expensive ship though. It was on sale last time for $600. And it's twice the size of a Constellation and has 2 point defense systems this time. So it's got great gear and great armament, but even with a crew of like 5 or so, I think the ship might be too large to defend effectively, and I would expect it to suffer massively against certain ships, like Vanguards, who are very agile compared to these big ships, and are super well armed, have the torpedoes and the agility necessary to get into position to use them effectively against Constellations, against 890 Jumps especially, because they're going to be slower, they're going to not be as agile, and they're going to be very big. With your multi-crew ships, your crew is so important. If your crew are smart, good at the game, good at combat, lucky, you're going to be doing so much better. But also, just having the right specialisation for crew. You're going to occasionally need, in the case of like an 890 Jump, you're going to need people to be able to repel boarders. You're going to need people to be able to board ships. It depends on what sort of combat role you want to do and what ship you choose for that. It is much more important in larger ships like capital ships, so in a later video we will discuss capital ships in a lot of detail. There's the new Corvette, which we don't know too much about at the moment. There's the Idris P, the Idris M, and that Javelin Destroyer, which are all going to be relatively obtainable by players. But also there's the Bengal, the Panther, all of those kind of ships. There's going to be big capital ships in the verse. These ships, even at the smallest level, are going to be really, really hard to maintain, control, and use effectively. You're going to need large crews to work together to be able to fly these ships, but you're also going to need to continually think about borders. You're going to continually think about how to defend these ships from torpedoes, from e-warfare. It is a massive liability for you if you're not going to be able to run these ships effectively. You're not going to be able to train a team to work together to run those ships. So just keep that in mind for the future. They are on a whole nother level compared to the other multi-crew ships we've just discussed. So as an overview, I'm going to talk about the multi-crew ships and what I'd pick again briefly. I'm going to kind of ignore the just 2-seat ships here. So if you wanted to start a ship, if you want to get into the multi-crew experience as cheap as possible, I really recommend the Taurus. If not the Taurus, then possibly the base Retaliator. Both $150. I really like the ships. I think they're really, really great choices. Star pick for me for combat multi-crew ships is the Andromeda. Great bang for buck, relatively speaking. It is a great multi-crew combat ship. It's got that parasite fighter. It's going to give you a great experience for you and all your crew about really piloting a true combat ship in Star Citizen. If you want to do some piracy or multi-role or bounty hunting, then I'd probably go for the Caterpillar. I really like the idea of the Caterpillar. It's going to be really modular. You're going to be able to keep on changing what it does. And for people that don't really know what they want to do but want a multi-crew ship, Caterpillar's probably for them. But we'll talk more about that kind of role at a later date anyway. If UEC or money is no object and you've got a smaller crew, then I think the Phoenix is a great idea. Phoenix is going to be better than the Andromeda, but it's not cost effective. It's very expensive for just a small amount of gain, relatively speaking. But if you've got the money to burn, Phoenix is a great choice. It is going to treat you with luxury, and it's got a hot tub. For larger crews, you're going to want a capital ship, but organisation is key, and we'll talk more about that next time. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. This was quite ranty of me, rather than normal. A lot of these ships, obviously, in fact, pretty much all of these ships, the multi-crew ships anyway, aren't available in the game yet. We're going to see the first taste of them in Star Citizen Alpha 2.0. And because of that, I have to kind of talk about them, what I think about them, the spirit of the ship, how I think they're going to play, and just look at stats. And all this stuff's going to get balanced and rebalanced, and we're going to see how it all works soon. But until then, I just have to talk about it like that, and it causes me to rant. So apologies if people don't enjoy my rants, but thanks for watching. It's very much appreciated. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you next time, and I'll see you in the verse.